Introduction. Threat of War, December 2018. A month after the 2018 midterm elections, chief executives of 75 of the nation's leading manufacturing, technology, and financial firms gathered at the Four Seasons Hotel in the Georgetown section of Washington, D.C., to hear from top Trump administration officials. It was a chilly day and a gloomy time for the White House. Republicans had come up short in the elections, losing control of the House of Representatives. The stock market was deep into a fall swoon. White House turmoil was deepening, as the chief of staff was about to resign. On that December 4th, Washington was also preparing for the funeral the following day of President George H.W. Bush, who seemed like a leader from some Paleolithic period when politicians spoke civilly and soap opera drama was reserved for TV. The CEOs had a different concern on their minds: China. How badly were U.S.-China relations deteriorating? Was the trade war between the two nations spinning out of control? Should they remake their business strategies and assume that tariffs, sanctions, and indictments would permanently limit trade and investment between the two nations? The group was part of what the Wall Street Journal calls its CEO Council, about 200 companies that pay $24,800 a year to have senior executives join sessions in Washington and elsewhere around the world with policymakers. Sitting on a conference room stage, Wall Street Journal reporters and editors pepper administration officials with questions. The audience gets to vote on a question chosen by the editor, with the results displayed on an electronic screen at the front of the room. The Wall Street Journal's editor-at-large, Gerard Baker, an acerbic Brit, faced off with John Bolton, who was then the administration's national security advisor. The formal topic was American business in the world, but Baker moved immediately to China. President Donald Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping had met for dinner 3 days earlier in Buenos Aires, Baker reminded the audience. The two leaders had reached a 90-day truce during which the United States promised to suspend its plans to raise tariffs. President Trump has certainly described the meeting in almost a 1938 Neville Chamberlain-type way. Peace in our time, Baker said, egging on Bolton, who had sat in on the Argentina dinner. I wouldn't say that, Bolton responded, laughing. In quick succession, the blunt-speaking Bolton accused China of stealing U.S. intellectual property, forcing companies to give up technology against their will to Chinese partners, and spying on U.S. firms. Sure, China was talking about buying more U.S. soybeans, he continued, and that was fine, but it was hardly enough to get the United States to back off. We don't see the American future being a third-world country supplying natural resources and agricultural products to China, Bolton said. We need to see some major changes in their behavior, structural issues, if you will. Without these changes, he continued, there would be more punishment. How about a rule that says there will be no imports into the United States of any products or services that are based on the theft of American intellectual property, he said. What Bolton left unsaid was just as important. Who would determine whether Chinese imports were based on theft? Obviously, some U.S. agency. How would it decide? Anyone's guess. That could give the U.S. government authority to ban any import at any time, an enormous expansion of U.S. punitive power aimed at Beijing. Is that something the president and the administration's proposing? Baker asked. We may have some authority in that area already, Bolton said. We may need additional legislation, but this is what we're talking about. The United States clearly had misread China's rise, he went on. American policy was based on the assumption that bringing China into the WTO, World Trade Organization, would increase pressure to conform to international norms in trade and business areas. That has obviously not happened. We had decades of people who said the modernization and economic growth of China would produce increased political freedom.